Wagwan YouTube is a boy even back with another video, or should I say Gama Joba Megoberba. Now we got the history of Georgia, the country explained. Now as most of y'all know, I'm gonna be coming to Georgia soon and very soon, so y'all be seeing me in Georgia, man. Yes, I'm coming to Georgia in the winter, I know, but I'll be back in the maybe when it's not winter, maybe when it's summertime, it's warm, I can explore more. But I'll be coming to Georgia for some time in this winter, so look out for your boy in the streets of Georgia, man. But I said, you know what, let me learn a lot more stuff about Georgia since I'm gonna be going there. And every country that I visited or I want to travel to, I've always like studied or learned a lot about their culture and the place that I'm going to. I don't know, I like to do that, bro. I just always like to do that. But we're gonna check out the history of Georgia, man. I've done a couple reactions like this before, but the other ones, you guys were telling me that some of the information isn't accurate. Now, the video that I'm going to be reacting to, this video, it is 4 years old. So this was made in 2020. So a lot of this stuff might not be up to date if there's anything that changed in in Georgia since that time. But we're going to see, man. If you haven't already, subscribe down below. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. I promise you, I'm going to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I have no school right now because you all know school is what like literally kind of slow my YouTube career down a little bit, because I'll be going to school every day and I coach. I used to coach. I stopped coaching football. Right now I'm focused on my own career. Right now I'm a free agent because the transfer window is closed where I'm at in Asia right now. I might have to be going back to America or what, bro, but I'm going to be visiting Georgia on my way back. So I'm going to be visiting Georgia for a short time. So let's get right on to it, man.
Sakartvelo, commonly known as Georgia, is a nation of 4 million people located on the eastern shore of the Black Sea coast. It is nestled between two of the most formidable mountain ranges on Earth, the Greater and Lesser Caucasus.
Hold on, bro. The Black Sea. Didn't I fly over the Black Sea when I was coming to Thailand? I went over the Black Sea, but let me just double check if I did go over I think I did go over the Black Sea, because I landed in Jordan, in Amman, Jordan, and I'm pretty sure Jordan... Oh, never mind. It was the Dead Sea. I went over the Dead Sea, not the Black Sea. It's two different seas.
Georgia is bordered by the nations of Armenia, Turkey, and Azerbaijan to the south, while Russia looms over the north. Iran is also nearby. On the larger regional level, Georgia lies between Eastern Europe and the Near East. Georgia is sometimes confused with the American state of the same name, while the state was named after George II of Great Britain. The origin of the country's name is a little more ambiguous. For many centuries, it has been commonly believed that the name was derived from the country's patron Saint George, the dragon slayer, while most modern scholars hypothesize that the name is derived from a transliteration of the Persian word for wolf, with the country's name meaning land of the wolves. Sakartvelo.
There are wolves in Georgia. Let me know down below in the comment section. Are there wolves in Georgia? Georgia, bro. I'm gonna be going in the winter, so I know a lot of the fun places I probably can't go, but
the country's native name means land of the Kartvelians. The Kartvelians are the indigenous people of the region, predominantly descended from those that have lived there since prehistoric times. More than 8,000 years ago, the fertile river valleys in this geographically isolated region provided a haven for growing a wide variety of crops, including grapes. Wine residue, found on ancient Georgian pottery fragments, is the earliest evidence of the delicious beverage found anywhere in the world. Additionally, cows and pigs were also widely cultivated throughout the territory of what is now Georgia during prehistoric times. As the Proto-Kartvelians enjoyed their wine and steak dinners, a succession of imperial states to the south began raiding the prosperous land. The Hittites, Assyrians, and the Kingdom of Urartu all launched campaigns into the mountainous region. They successfully extracted tribute of livestock and metals, but were never able to dominate the land. In response to the foreign incursions, the Diowehi tribal union formed for mutual defense. Over time, the battered border tribes became dominated by the interior kingdom of Colchis, which consolidated power over much of the tribes by the mid-8th century BC. Colchis traded gold, iron, copper, timber, honey, and wine with the Greek merchants who braved the long voyage to Colchis. To the early Greeks, the kingdom...
Question: naturally, are there gold and silver in iron? Are there gold and silver naturally in Georgia as a natural resource? Let me know down in the comment section.
Was viewed as being at the edge of the known world. Colchis became famous for his peace and prosperity, as typified by the legend of Jason and the Golden Fleece, where a fancy sheepskin magically brought great wealth to the kingdom, before Jason stole it. Around 5...
Come on, bro. Hey, take the time to subscribe if you haven't already, man. Let's get it.
The Persian Achaemenid Empire was the first imperial power to conquer and incorporate the region. Colchis thrived under Persian rule, as they became connected to the largest and most populated state on Earth at the time, which meant many more potential customers for Colchian products and raw materials. After more than 2 centuries of Persian rule, Colchis became independent again, as Alexander of Macedon toppled the Persian Empire. Following a few chaotic decades, a second Kartvelian-speaking state was founded, the Kingdom of Kartli, commonly known as the Kingdom of Iberia. The burgeoning kingdom enjoyed several decades of independence, which was followed by a long period of nominal foreign influence. First, Iberia maintained amicable relations with the Hellenistic Seleucid Empire that succeeded Alexander, before falling within the Parthian sphere of influence. Iberia then became an Armenian vassal, which itself was more often than not a Parthian vassal. The two kingdoms engaged in a centuries-long frenemy relationship, with lots of intermarriage and not too much familicide. Colchis was also not spared from imperial entanglements. It was initially conquered for a short while by the ill-fated emerging Black Sea Empire of Pontus, before falling under Roman rule. Landlocked Iberia quickly developed very friendly diplomatic relations with the Roman Empire, who built fortifications for them at strategic locations. Their king was called Friend of the Caesars in a surviving inscription, and the people were called the Roman-loving Iberians, perhaps in contrast to the Iberians who didn't love the Romans so much, which is what the Romans called the original inhabitants of what is now Spain. Iberia's relationship with Rome gave them leverage in their rivalry with Armenia.
Because Spain and Portugal, the people of Spain and Portugal, if they do a DNA test right now, all of them will have Iberian blood, right? Am I not mistaken? I feel like if Portugal, anybody from Portugal and Spain do a, one of those ancestry tests or DNA like tests, like 23andMe or MyHeritage test or whatever, I'm pretty sure they're. I did the test, bro. I did my DNA test, guys. I can put the result. I can show you all the result later or tell you about it. But I was literally from all over the place. So I had African in me. That was the most. I had a lot of African. So I had Nigerian, Kenyan, and I had like Algerian, North African, or Egyptian. Maybe it's Egypt, because Egypt is probably one of the oldest African states. So it might have been like Egyptian. So I had like that in me. Then I had European, so I had, I think it was it French or Dutch? One of the European countries was either French or Dutch. I had a lot of British, so I had English, probably like 20% English in me. Then I had 1% Nepali, so I'm Asian as well. And then I had literally all of South and Central America. So I was Native American, you would say, like Taino Native or Arab Native. So I had those type of people in me as well. Pause. So I'm all over. I'm mixed with all different ethnicities. That's why I look like this, guys. I'm mixed with everything you can think of on this planet. Crazy.
Yeah. For 300 years, Armenia was usually the stronger power. The most notable exception being Pharasmanes I, who was able to exert control over Armenia and Albania. Not that Albania, but his doppelganger in the Caucasus. This Transcaucasian empire in the making was short-lived, and the Parthians helped Armenia defeat Iberia. During the more than 2 centuries of war between Rome and Parthia, the region was often the battleground for their rivalry, and the stage for their political intrigue. Colchis became fully incorporated into the Roman Empire as a province, before reverting into a semi-autonomous vassal kingdom called Lazica. Meanwhile, Iberia successfully leveraged the delicate balance of power between Rome and Parthia to gain full independence from Armenia. In the early 3rd century, the Sassanid Persian Empire usurped the Parthians and engaged in over 4 centuries of conflict with Rome. During this time, Christianity became widely adopted in Lazica and Iberia, with the latter making it the official state religion in the 4th century. In the face of overwhelming force, Iberia became a Sassanid ally. They later returned to the Roman way for 60 years before being reconquered and forced into vassalage. Lazica was typically outside of the danger zone for the majority of the wars fought between Rome and Persia before it became the venue for a 20-year-long war. The Persians managed to conquer Lazica, but relinquished control of the kingdom in return for a yearly payment. Afterwards, Iberia's relationship with the Sassanid Persians gradually soured, as Zoroastrianism was made the co-state religion with Christianity. Discontent culminated in a series of rebellions which ended with Iberia being disestablished in the year 580. The Kartvelians continued to rise up in rebellion over the following decades as Rome and Persia continued to wage war on each other, and its territory was split between Persia and Rome. Then, the Arab invasion and rapid collapse of the Sassanid.
Guys, you can now generate videos directly.
Interesting. I'm learning. I didn't learn this in the other videos, to be honest. The other videos that I reacted to, I didn't learn any of this.
Allowed Iberia to reunite. Shortly afterwards, Lazica rebelled against the ailing and overburdened Eastern Roman Empire, establishing its independence, although Constantinople's influence was gradually reasserted. In the mid-730s, Lazica and Iberia were able to team up and defeat an Arab invasion. However, the land was devastated. Crops, cities, and towns lay in ruin, while the nomadic Khazars from the north raided the countryside for several decades. In the 770s, the Principality of Abkhazia united with the Kingdom of Lazica.
Are the Khazars descendants of people from Kazakhstan? Or not?
Through diplomatic marriage and established the Kingdom of Abkhazia shortly afterwards. While Abkhazia solidified its power and rebuilt the region's economy and infrastructure, the Iberians were not so lucky. For exactly 3 centuries, the kingless nobles of the Principality of Iberia endured the brunt of foreign invasion. They managed to maintain a degree of independence, protected by their remote mountain citadels, while their capital of Tbilisi was conquered and re-established as an...
So Tbilisi was around since then, like the name Tbilisi was around since... This is 588 AD, Anno Domini. Interesting. Or maybe somewhere around this time, right? Interesting. I didn't know. A lot of places, their names were not around for that long. Like they were recent. Like I think in the Western Hemisphere where I'm from, the names aren't that old. Like the names of the places aren't that old as in this side of the world, the Eastern Hemisphere, where you have like the Roman Empire and all this. So that's interesting to see. I didn't know that.
Emirate, which acted as the Arab base of operations in the Caucasus. They survived as a fractured, malcontented, and rebellious tributary for a succession of Arab empires, while suffering nomadic raids. By the late 9th century, nearly all of the Iberian nobility had been hunted down, slaughtered, killed in battle, or had been executed by the ruling Arab dynasties to the south. This left a power vacuum that was filled by the surviving Bagratid dynasty.
And if Tbilisi is right here, that means Batumi is somewhere over here as well, right? Am I right, guys, or not? Maybe. We'll see.
The family slowly consolidated power and re-established the Iberian kingdom in 888. Throughout the 10th century, the kingdom became divided between 3 competing branches of the Bagrationi family. By the end of the century, David, Duke of Tau, became the most powerful Bagrationi warlord in Iberia. He successfully raided and extracted tribute in nearly every direction, and sent troops to take part in 2 Byzantine civil wars, during which time he gained and lost a large Byzantine border region. Through diplomacy and war, David arranged for his adopted son Bagrat to inherit both thrones of Abkhazia and Iberia. David was slain by a glass of poisoned communion wine. 8 years later, Bagrat III united both Kartvelian kingdoms into the unified kingdom of Georgia.
Bagrat was the king of Georgia since 1008 and to 1014. Only 6 years? What happened? What happened between that time?
In 1008, he secured his new nation's borders by allying with the Armenians to the south. Together they raided the Eastern Emirates and extracted tribute from them. To ensure his son George had a smooth succession to the throne, Bagrat imprisoned several of his potentially rebellious cousins. George I was ambitious, When the Eastern Roman Emperor Basil was busy slaying Bulgars in the west, George was able to annex the lands of Tau from the Byzantine Empire in the east. A few years later, this temporary success was reversed when met with the full force of Roman might. After George's death, the Georgians continued to squabble with the Romans. This is when the Seljuk Turks arrived. For decades,
the Georgians went up against the Romans, bruv. I had no idea. Interesting.
The Turks dealt the Romans devastating defeats, while the battered Georgians paid tribute. Until David IV stopped paying tribute to the Turks, and later decisively defeated the Seljuk Empire in a major battle. He restored the Georgian kingdom's prosperity and greatly expanded its territory. David the Builder transformed Georgia into a great power and began the country's golden age, which came to a height during the reign of David's great-granddaughter, Tamar. At the age of 24, she became the sole ruler of Georgia, after spending 6 years as co-regent with her ailing father George. As a child, she witnessed her father defeat foreign invaders and emerge victorious in a brutal civil war where many of her family members slaughtered each other. Georgia's aristocratic clans chose a husband they controlled for the young queen to marry, and generally bullied her during her first 2 years on the throne. Meanwhile, Tamar built a loyal base of followers, which most importantly included the Georgian church. Then swiftly and without warning, she imprisoned, executed, or exiled her enemies, including her husband, whom she accused of being far too fond of strong drink, and the fellas he drank drink with.
She was drunk. She killed her husband.
And generally bullied her during her first 2 years on the throne. Meanwhile, Tamar built a loyal base of followers, which most importantly included the Georgian church. Then swiftly and without warning, she imprisoned, executed, or exiled her enemies, including her husband, whom she accused
Her husband was her enemy.
of being far too fond of strong drink, and the fellas he...
So he was drunk, not her. So he's the one that's been drinking a lot, the husband, the king. And she, Tamar the Great, said enough of that and dealt with it, the situation.
drank drink with. In an unprecedented move for the time, she divorced him and banished him from the kingdom. After crushing 2 minor rebellions, she chose her second husband, which was another unprecedented move for the time. Her husband David was a prince of the Christianized Iranian-speaking Alans who were descended from nomads who had settled in the Caucasus centuries before. Although subordinate in rank and authority to his wife, David was steadfastly loyal to Tamar, and a talented military commander. David led Georgia's armies on a cavalcade of successful military campaigns, expanding the kingdom into a proper empire. After the misguided Fourth Crusades, sack and occupation of Constantinople, Tamar helped establish the Protectorate of Trebizond.
So you see, 1490. So the kingdom of Georgia reigned from 1008 to 1490. Interesting fact. Christopher Columbus came to Jamaica in 1492, if I am not mistaken, and he claimed he discovered Jamaica, which in fact the Tainos were already in Jamaica at the time when Christopher Columbus came and claimed he discovered Jamaica in 1492. So they're the people that I have in my blood, that I still have in me. So I'm descendant of those people from 1492. I told you already, I'm descendant of the Arawaks and Taino blood. So that's like those people were living in Jamaica way before Christopher Columbus came. And Christopher Columbus came in 1492, if I'm not mistaken, and claimed to discover Jamaica and wiped out most of my people back then. And here we are today. But that's interesting that Georgia's, like as I said, like the Western Hemisphere is much younger than the Eastern Hemisphere. So America, South America, North America, Central America, all of that is way younger than this side of the world where you have the Roman empires and all that, and you had Jerusalem and all that, Egypt and all that, Georgia, you know what I mean, Russia, China, the Mongolia, you know what I mean, like all that is way older than my side of the world. And it's interesting to see all this.
Occupation of Constantinople, Tamar helped establish the Protectorate of Trebizond, which was in name its own empire. There, Her younger sister reigned as queen, alongside a claimant to the Byzantine Empire, in exile, who was also one of her relatives who grew up in Georgia. Tamar's reign also saw the height of the Georgian Golden Age in art, academics, and architecture. She also funded churches and monasteries throughout the Near East. A contemporary French chronicler wrote of the Georgians, "There is also in the East another Christian people, who are very warlike and valiant in battle, being strong in body and powerful in the countless numbers of their warriors. Being entirely surrounded by infidel nations, these men are called Georgians, because they especially revere and worship St. George. Whenever they come on pilgrimage to the Lord's Sepulchre, they march into the holy city without paying tribute to anyone, for the Saracens dare in no way molest them." With the remnants of the Byzantine, Eastern Roman Empire in serious decline, Tamar stylized herself as the defender of all Christians in the region. Among Tamar's many titles were King of Kings, Queen of Queens, Shah, Autocrat of all the East and West, and Champion of the Messiah. Shortly after her death, the country was repeatedly invaded by the Mongols, and the empire shrank into its core territories.
I was gonna ask, because Georgia had a lot like this. All of this was Georgia. I was going to ask, when did somebody come and try to conquer and shrunk the landmass of Georgia? I was about to ask that question, but they answered it, the Mongols.
And then fractured. During the 14th century, Georgia had recovered, pulled itself together, and began to prosper again. Then, the warlord Tamerlane led 8 Turco-Mongol invasions into the country. A devastated Georgia fractured into several small squabbling states in the aftermath. During the 15th...
Hold on. Isn't Kakheti still around today, like the name? Right? I pronounced it wrong, I know, but isn't it still around today? The name of it. I think I've heard of Guria as well. Oh, Samegrelo. See, that's what I've just reacted to in the diss tracks between like Bani Taha and Vache. Like Samegrelo. This came up a lot. Interesting.
15th century, the borders of these states constantly fluctuated, fell apart, and reformed. In the 16th century, these states became dominated by the Ottoman Turks in the west and the Safavid Persians in the east. The region became the battleground for these great powers. Different Iranian dynasties battled the Ottomans, but the battleground remained the same. As the Georgian kingdoms of Kartli and Imereti were right on the border regions of the warring empires, they did manage to maintain a relatively high degree of autonomy during the many conflicts fought in the region, and often tip the balance of power in one direction or the other. By the early 19th century, a new great power, Russia, became involved in the Caucasus and consolidated their hold over the region throughout that century. When the Russian monarchy was toppled in the early 20th century, the Caucasus went through several different governmental iterations in a short period of time, before the Democratic Republic of Georgia was established in 1918. Random related fact. This Georgian fellow, nicknamed Koba, moved to the north and played a pivotal role in the global events of the 20th century. 3 years after it was established, the Russian Soviet army invaded and established the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic. This lasted until the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, when the modern...
Interesting. Now, this is recent, very, 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 very recent. 1991 is very recent.
state of Georgia was established.
There we go. Let's go, Georgia.
Civil war soon followed that lasted for 2 years, which ended with the creation of the de facto states of South Ossetia and Abkhazia. In 2008, Russia invaded and established military bases in Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Today, Georgia is still an industrious land of strong people that make great wine. Also, if you are from Georgia or have visited there, what is your favorite thing to do or place to visit there?
I will let you know because I'm going to be there soon, mate. Thank you for asking. I'm going to be in Georgia very soon, mate. So I'll let you know.
Georgia or have visited there, what is your favorite thing to do or place to visit there? Or favorite local dish to eat? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Okay, so brilliant video, interesting video, guys. Let me know in the comment section are there any of these that we saw in this video not accurate? Or is there any other thing that would you like me to know down below in the comment section? Let me know if this video was accurate enough of the history of Georgia for me to consume right now. I don't think I've seen a lot of this in all the other videos I've actually watched on Georgia before. So I'm happy for this video. It gave me a lot more of the real the early history of Georgia. Also, yeah, it did ask our favorite foods. Now, I've tried kinkali and the kachapuri. I love it. I love both of them. I've tried that in New York from a local type of Georgian cuisine place. I checked out what was the best ones. One of my subscribers that messaged me, and I messaged him on Instagram. He lives in New York, in Brooklyn, and he told me places to go, and I went there. That video's on my screen on my YouTube channel. I tried that with my family. I tried it with my mom and uncle. They loved it, the food. So a lot of y'all have seen my mom before on some of my old Georgian reactions, like from 2 years ago. Some of y'all have know my mom. My mom's been on my videos reacting to Georgian stuff as well. For those who don't know, for those who are new here, but I'm gonna be in Georgia soon. I hope to be trying all the foods and go to some of the places. Yes, it's winter. I'm gonna be going in the snow. So, hey man, I'm probably not gonna be able to check out all the nice spots. Probably I'm gonna have to come back in the summer or something. Maybe we don't know how my life is gonna turn out within this year. But we'll see, man. Subscribe if you haven't already. Road to 100K, man. It's your boy JT. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.